On the day I buried my mother, my wife sent me a 6-word text from a beach. Sorry I couldn't be there. Everything okay? No punctuation. No emotion. Just a tropical drink and a smile posted on her story. That's when I knew this wasn't grief. It was betrayal, and I wasn't about to let it slide. The cemetery was quiet, too quiet. The kind of silence that presses on your chest like a weight. My mother was being lowered into the ground, and the world moved on like it didn't notice. But what cut deeper than the finality of her burial was the absence of one person. Emma, my wife. She knew how much this day meant to me. She knew I was close to my mom, knew the pain I was carrying. And yet, she was thousands of miles away on some tropical beach, living what she called a wellness reset. That's what she called it when she told me she couldn't cancel a pre-booked trip with her girlfriends. It's been on the calendar for months, she said, as if that somehow made it okay to miss my mother's funeral. She didn't ask if I needed her there. She didn't even offer to come back. Just packed a suitcase and vanished. Her only gesture? A single email to my sister with generic condolences and a 6-word text to me the morning of the funeral. Sorry I couldn't be there. Everything okay? No punctuation. No emotion. Just detachment. Like she was texting a coworker about a meeting she missed. As I stood by the grave, my phone buzzed with more messages. People checking in, offering support. But not her. Her phone was quiet, her social media was not. That same morning, she posted a photo of a cocktail in a hollowed-out pineapple. Blue sky in the background, captioned #healing. That word hit like a slap. Healing? While I was burying the woman who raised me. At first, I told myself I was being too sensitive. That grief was distorting everything. But deep down, I knew better. Her absence wasn't a miscommunication. It was a decision. And it wasn't just about the funeral. It was months, maybe years in the making. Emma hadn't been herself in a long time. Conversations had become short, functional. Smiles were rare, and when they happened, they never quite reached her eyes. Physical affection disappeared first, then patience, then interest. I'd asked once if she wanted to talk about anything. She said she was just tired. Work was busy. Life was overwhelming. I believed her. I wanted to believe her. But standing at that grave, I stopped believing. When she finally came home a week later, it was like nothing had happened. She dropped her bag at the door and gave me a breezy hey. As if returning from a routine business trip. Her skin was sun-kissed. Her tone was light. She didn't even say my mother's name. Just a quick, sorry again about the funeral. Bad timing. Bad timing. That phrase stuck in my throat like a splinter. I didn't respond. I just watched her. Really watched her. Everything about her seemed looser, like she'd left more than just luggage behind. She leaned in to kiss me, but I turned my head. Jet lag must be tough, I said, stepping away. She didn't push. She took the out, went upstairs and disappeared into her phone. That was Emma now. Thumb always moving, face lit by a screen, mind somewhere else. I sat on the couch in silence, not even sure what I was waiting for. Maybe an apology. Maybe for her to ask how I was holding up. Nothing came, and that silence said more than any words could have. That night, I lay awake while she slept beside me, her back turned, just like always now. I got up, walked to her office, and opened her personal laptop. It wasn't locked. She'd never been good with passwords. I didn't go searching for betrayal. I wasn't looking for an affair. I just needed something to explain what was happening to my life. I opened a folder labeled Travel Itinerary Wellness Retreat. Inside was a PDF with flight info, hotel bookings, and a name I didn't recognize, Jason Langford. 2 flights, 1 hotel suite, a king bed, beachfront. My hand froze on the mouse. I stared at that name next to hers on every page, trying to breathe through the shock. Jason Langford wasn't one of her friends. He wasn't even someone she'd mentioned in passing. But he was listed on everything: room reservations, dinner plans, spa treatments. I didn't cry. I didn't rage. I just sat there as the pieces clicked into place. This wasn't a getaway with friends. It wasn't even a breakdown in communication. It was a deliberate decision to abandon me during the worst week of my life and do it with someone else. Still, I wasn't ready to accuse her. Not yet. I needed more than a name. I needed truth. Something I could hold. Something that would leave no room for excuses. So I closed the laptop, slipped it back where I found it, and walked to the bathroom. Her beach bag was in the hallway. I unzipped it and found a few receipts, a resort map, a pair of sunglasses I didn't recognize. But what really hit me was a necklace. A delicate gold chain with a sapphire teardrop pendant. It used to belong to my mother. I had given it to Emma on our second anniversary. She said she'd wear it only on special occasions. She hadn't worn it in over a year. And yet, there it was, glinting in one of the beach selfies she posted while I stood in a graveyard. That wasn't forgetfulness. That was choice. I zipped the bag shut, stared at the mirror, and made a quiet promise. This wasn't going to break me. She thought distance made her invisible. She thought grief made me blind. She was wrong. The next morning, Emma moved through the house like everything was fine. She made coffee, hummed to herself, even asked if I wanted to go for brunch. The same woman who had vanished during my mother's funeral now acted like we were on some casual Sunday routine. I played along. I told her I had errands to run and left. Instead, I went to a coffee shop with Wi-Fi and messaged an old college friend, Noah. He worked in cybersecurity and owed me a favor from back when I helped him through a rough patch. I didn't give him the whole story, just the name Jason Langford. Need to know who he is and if he's got any ties to Emma. Quietly, Noah responded in under an hour. Give me a day. Back home, I kept quiet. I didn't confront. I observed. Emma was too comfortable, too sure I was still buried under grief. She didn't ask questions, didn't offer details about her trip. The woman I'd married used to come back from a grocery run with stories. Now she returned from a week-long beach vacation and gave me nothing. She thought silence made her safe. But I was paying attention now. That night, while she went to meet a friend from yoga, I opened her laptop again. This time I checked her email. Her inbox was spotless, too clean. But the trash folder? That's where everything lived. I found 6 threads between her and Jason Langford, stretching back over a year. In the earliest ones, she called me emotionally exhausting, said I was too focused on my dying mother, and that she felt unseen. Jason played the part of the sensitive listener, replying with affirmations and cliché quotes. In one message, she said, "He doesn't know how to let go. He's obsessed with grief. I need space." Jason responded, "Let him grieve. You're already healing." I wanted to punch the screen, but it was one email, dated just 2 days before the funeral, that made my jaw tighten. Emma had written, "The funeral's this weekend. I should go, but honestly, it's perfect. No one will question why I'm gone. He'll be too distracted." That was when my anger changed. It wasn't confusion anymore. It was clarity. Emma didn't miss the funeral by accident. She planned around it. She knew it was the one moment I would be too overwhelmed to ask questions, too shattered to look closely. And she used that time to disappear with someone else. I screenshotted every message and sent them to my encrypted drive. Not out of paranoia, out of necessity. I needed proof. The truth had to be undeniable, permanent. I wasn't going to let her rewrite this later. I wasn't going to let her tell our friends or a lawyer some version where she was the victim. The next day, Noah called. "I hope you're sitting down," he said. "Jason Langford lives in New Jersey. He's married. 2 kids. Financial advisor. Wife's name is Amy Langford." Everything around me went still. Emma hadn't just escaped with a fling. She was involved with a married man. One with a full family. This wasn't impulsive, it was structured, coordinated, planned over a year, hidden in plain sight while I sat beside my dying mother, holding her hand in hospital rooms and barely sleeping. Noah wasn't done. They met at a conference last year, mental health workshop. I found a photo on his Facebook. Emma commented on it. They've been meeting up in different cities. 3 hotels in 6 months. This isn't new. I hung up without responding. That night I couldn't sleep. I sat on the floor of our bedroom, thinking about the last 12 months. Emma's increasing detachment. Her excuses to travel solo. The growing number of mental health retreats and self-care weekends. The conversations she shut down. The intimacy she stopped offering. None of it was random. She had slowly rewritten the narrative. I was the overly emotional husband, weighed down by grief, too obsessed with family. She painted herself as trapped, misunderstood, needing air. She never said any of it to my face. She said it all to Jason. I wasn't just angry at her. I was angry at myself for not seeing it sooner. But I wasn't going to lash out. I wasn't going to yell, accuse, or fall apart. I was going to prepare. I contacted a lawyer the following morning. Explained everything. Provided documentation. We started building a case clean, discreet, effective. I wasn't aiming for drama. I was aiming for freedom. But first, I needed one more layer of confirmation. I remembered something Emma had forgotten. Years ago, she linked her phone to our shared cloud account. It hadn't been disconnected. I logged in and downloaded every synced photo. There were dozens. Photos of beaches, cocktails, selfies. But one stood out. Emma in a hotel robe, smiling beside a man with his shirt off. Jason. They were in bed. She was wearing the sapphire necklace I'd given her, the one that used to belong to my mother. I zoomed in on the timestamp. The date? The day of the funeral. That was the final thread. She hadn't just left me alone. She'd smiled through it. And she'd done it wearing something sacred. Something she once claimed was too sentimental to wear unless the moment was special. Now I knew what kind of special she meant. I backed up everything. Created copies. One set for the lawyer. One for me. And one for Amy Langford. This wasn't about revenge. It wasn't even about justice. It was about ending the performance. Emma had been living two lives. Now I was going to collapse them into one truth. The morning I decided to confront her, the house was unusually quiet. Emma was already in the kitchen, sipping coffee from a mug that read wife. Mom, boss. She didn't notice me walk in. Her attention was on her phone, her thumbs dancing across the screen. I stood for a moment and watched, not with suspicion anymore, but certainty. This wasn't about catching her. I already had everything I needed. This was about ending it. We need to talk, I said. She looked up slowly, feigning surprise, as if the past few weeks hadn't been crawling with silence. About what? Your vacation, I replied. She leaned back, too relaxed. What about it? I know it wasn't a group retreat. I know you didn't go alone. And I know who Jason Langford is. Her posture shifted slightly, just enough to confirm what I already knew. Her grip tightened on the mug. Her face didn't change much, but the pause in her breathing was enough. I didn't say anything more. I slid my phone across the table. On the screen was a photo, Emma and Jason in bed, her wearing the necklace I'd given her years ago, the one that used to belong to my mother. It had been synced from her cloud account. She looked at it, just once. You went through my stuff? She asked, voice low. Of course I did. You stopped hiding it. She stood up slowly. You have no right. Sit down, Emma. She did, not because I had power over her, but because she realized in that moment the game was over. I know about the emails, I said. The hotels. The necklace. I know about the funeral. She didn't deny it. She didn't need to. The truth was too loud now. This is why I left, she finally said. You're suffocating. You hold on to grief like it's a job. The line was rehearsed. Defensive. Hollow. I leaned forward. You wore my mother's necklace while sleeping with another man. You posted beach photos while I buried her. That wasn't grief. That was choice. She looked down, but only briefly. It didn't mean anything. Okay? It wasn't serious. It was serious enough to skip her funeral, I said. Serious enough to tell him I was too busy grieving to notice you were gone. There was nothing left to argue. She tried once more to pivot. You disappeared into your sadness. I needed something else. I nodded. Good, because now you'll have it permanently. I stood, walked to the drawer, and pulled out an envelope. I handed it to her. Divorce papers. She flipped through the pages, her hands trembling just slightly. You can't do this without talking to me first. I did talk. You didn't listen. She looked up at me, searching for some crack in my resolve. You think this makes you the better person? I chuckled, not out of malice, but exhaustion. No, Emma. I'm not trying to be the better anything. I'm just done. She stood again, this time with tears forming her last weapon. I didn't mean to hurt you, she said. I was just trying to find myself. I didn't respond. I walked into the living room and returned with a folder. This contains everything. Photos, messages, receipts. Jason's wife has a copy. So does his boss. Her eyes widened for the first time. Not from sorrow but consequence. You didn't. I did. I turned to leave, grabbing my coat. At the door I paused. Oh, and the house? My mom's name is still on the deed. She never transferred it. It's not community property. You'll need to find somewhere else to sleep. She didn't say a word. I walked out and didn't look back. That evening, I felt something I hadn't felt in months, relief. Not happiness, not closure. Just a quiet absence of pressure. Emma didn't try to stop the divorce. She sent a few texts, emotional, scattered. You'll regret this. We could have worked it out. I miss what we had. I didn't reply. She had spent over a year lying to my face while I took care of my dying mother. She had twisted the story so well, even I questioned myself at times. But now I had facts, evidence, and the weight of pretending was gone. Later that week, Amy Langford called me. She had received the folder. We didn't exchange pleasantries. She thanked me for telling her the truth. I asked if she was okay. She said she was leaving Jason. Then she confirmed what I already suspected. Emma had been part of her husband's life long before my mother got sick. The beach trip was just the final chapter. Amy offered to send me the full thread of emails between them. I said I'd appreciate it. We hung up without saying sorry. There was nothing to apologize for between us. We had both been lied to by people who knew exactly what they were doing. The damage wasn't impulsive. It was strategic, cold, rational. That was the part that stayed with me. Not the cheating but the planning. The cruelty of timing. The decision to use my grief as a cover. Emma didn't just leave. She calculated the moment that would hurt least for her. But she'd misjudged one thing. I wasn't breaking. I was preparing. I had confronted her without rage, filed without hesitation, and walked away with every truth documented. This wasn't revenge. This was closure on my terms. Emma didn't fight the divorce, not seriously. She had her moments. A few late-night texts. A voice message where she cried and said I was being cruel. Her words swung between guilt and manipulation. You're destroying everything we built. I made a mistake, but it wasn't worth losing us. I didn't answer. By then, I didn't need to. The truth had already done the talking. Jason Langford, the man she called healing, had his life unraveling too. Amy, his wife, didn't just leave. She exposed him. Sent the emails to his firm's ethics committee. Word spread quickly. He lost several clients, then his job. The affair that started with stolen glances in conference rooms ended with empty desks and legal paperwork. I wasn't glad. I wasn't even angry anymore. I felt nothing for him. He was just another man who thought he could live two lives. Emma thought the same. They both learned that lies might feel safe when whispered in private, but they don't stay there. As for me, I moved through the aftermath quietly. I boxed up her things. Not in anger, just practicality. Her side of the closet, cleared. Her favorite wine glasses, donated. She had picked them out for a life of entertaining we never lived. Her self-help books and unused journals went into a single storage bin. I didn't read them. I didn't want to understand her anymore. One night, I found the necklace, the sapphire teardrop. My mother's. Emma had stuffed it in the back of a drawer, tangled in earbuds and old receipts. No note, no explanation, just abandoned. I picked it up, waited in my hand for a few seconds, then drove it to a pawn shop on Eastburn Avenue. I sold it, didn't even look at the price they gave me. I only kept the receipt, and later I framed it, not out of spite, but because it marked the day I stopped holding on to what didn't belong to me anymore. The house felt emptier without her, but not worse. I rearranged furniture more out of habit than need. The silence that used to feel oppressive started to feel peaceful. I didn't play music. I didn't fill the space with noise. I let the quiet stay. A few friends reached out, confused. They'd seen the beach photos, the smiling vacation stories. When they heard we'd split, they asked if it had been sudden. I told them it wasn't. I said the marriage ended the day she chose a cocktail over compassion. They didn't ask more. Emma's social media went dark. No more wellness captions. No more yoga sunsets. She'd been so public during the affair, so performative in her joy, but now nothing. Jason was unemployed. Their story collapsed with a speed that surprised even me. I never told anyone the full truth, not in person. I didn't post anything, didn't tell my side loudly. I didn't need to. She'd written her legacy in every message she thought I'd never read. I let that speak for itself. A month later, I returned to the cemetery. Alone. There was no service. No guests. No reason, really. Just me. The wind had softened since the funeral. I stood at my mother's headstone, hands in my pockets, unsure what I even came to say. But something inside me felt unfinished. So I said it out loud. She left on purpose, Mom, and she didn't look back. I waited for it to hurt, but it didn't. The words felt true, and truth, even when heavy, sits easier than lies. I knelt and placed a single lily at the base of the stone. Emma used to say lilies smelled like loss. My mother used to say they smelled like peace. I finally understood what she meant. As I stood, I looked out over the quiet rows of graves, the hills in the distance. The sky was open, the air still. There were no more questions, no more illusions, just space finally. Emma had tried to rewrite our story. She wanted to be the woman who outgrew a sad marriage, the misunderstood wife who found herself. But that story only works if the other person stays silent. I didn't. I documented, confronted, and walked away with my dignity intact. And in the end, she got what she claimed she wanted, freedom. Just not the way she imagined. Weeks passed. The house became something else, quieter, yes, but also clearer. Without Emma's presence, everything settled. Not into loneliness, but into order. I cleaned, not because I needed distraction, but because I could. I wasn't managing chaos anymore. I was reclaiming space. There were no more arguments about where she had been. No more awkward silences over dinner. No half-hearted smiles meant to hold everything together. Life became honest. I resumed things I'd let slide. Weekly calls with my sister. A return to running in the early mornings. Small routines that reminded me who I was before everything blurred into crisis. I didn't talk much about the divorce. When friends asked, I kept it simple. We grew apart, I said. They nodded. They didn't need the rest. Emma had always feared judgment, but none came. Not publicly. She vanished from most social circles quietly. No dramatic exits, no attempts to explain. Her online presence remained frozen. No new posts, no updates, just silence. And Jason, he was a footnote. Amy followed through on her word. She filed for divorce, sent me the full email archive, and moved out of their family home. One thread in particular stood out. A message from Jason to Emma, 2 weeks after our confrontation. He asked if they could still make it work. She never responded. Whatever fantasy they'd created, it collapsed the moment it faced daylight. I read the messages once, then deleted them all. I didn't need reminders. One Saturday morning, I found the last item that tied Emma to the house. A small framed photo of us, tucked away behind books on a shelf. We were at a wedding, smiling. Younger. Happier. I stared at it for a few seconds, then tossed it into the donation box with the rest of what she left behind. That night, I got a text from her. I miss what we had. It wasn't the first. Probably wouldn't be the last. But this time, I didn't feel anything. I didn't even think about what to say. I just let the message sit there and moved on. There was nothing left to miss. What we had wasn't real in the end. Not if it could be abandoned so easily, so strategically. Emma made choices. She chose a beach over a burial. She chose distraction over support. She chose to lie not once, but repeatedly. And she chose to wear my mother's necklace in a hotel bed with someone else while telling me she was recharging. Those aren't missteps. Those are decisions. And every decision has a cost. She thought I would break, that I'd drown in grief and self-doubt while she rewrote the ending of our marriage in her favor. But grief didn't destroy me. It revealed her. And in the process, it gave me something she never could: perspective. I didn't need to prove anything to anyone. I didn't need to embarrass her or post screenshots or explain myself. The truth doesn't need noise to matter. It just needs to exist. And I had plenty of it. Sometime later, I visited the pawn shop again. Not to buy anything, just to see if the necklace was still there. It wasn't. I didn't ask where it went. I didn't want it back. I only paused by the counter for a second, then left. That chapter was over. In the months that followed, I began to rebuild. Slowly, purposefully. I traveled a little. Went to visit my aunt in Colorado. Took a solo trip to Oregon. Hiked trails I hadn't seen in years. I started reading again. Journaling. Living on my own terms. Emma's name came up now and then, in passing, in old photos, in conversations about what used to be. But she no longer lived in the present tense. She became part of a story I had survived, not a future I was waiting for. I still missed my mother. That kind of loss doesn't fade. But I no longer felt buried beneath it. I could talk about her without breaking. I could visit her grave without anger. One afternoon, I brought a fresh lily to her headstone. I sat beside it for a long time. No rush, no wait, just presence. Everything's okay now, I told her. And it was. Not perfect, not fixed, but okay. That's what real healing looks like. Not escape, not distraction, not pretending to be someone new. The standing still, facing the wreckage, and deciding what to build next. Emma had called it a retreat, a reset, a journey to find herself. But in the end, it wasn't about discovering who she was. It was about revealing who I'd become without her. And I liked that person more.